All right, let's go ahead and talk about Syria. Some extraordinary things happening over the last couple of days. An American contractor, as well as other several U.S. service members, were wounded in an apparent drone attack on a U.S. base in eastern Syria. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So some of the details are a little bit scant, but the initial indications that are coming out of this incident are really troubling, and the Pentagon has to answer a lot of questions. So as I said, the Pentagon is blaming Iranian-backed militias and said that it was a, quote, Iranian drone or a drone of Iranian origin, whatever that means. Obviously, eastern Syria is a hotly contested territory. You've got Iranian-backed militias, you've got Islamic militias, you've got U.S.-backed militias. It's basically a free fire zone and has been now since the beginning of the civil war. Occasionally, Israeli strikes will happen in the region against Hezbollah. It's absolute madness going on there. And of course, the question arises, like, why are American troops even there? Who are these contractors? What are we doing? Much of it is currently being conducted under the U.S. anti-ISIS mission. So yes, there have been some limited number of airstrikes and operations against ISIS in the last couple of months, but it's one that very much flies under the radar until, as we all saw during the Niger attack, the U.S. service members just end up dead in a part of the world that we barely even knew that we were still operating in. What is especially insane about this attack, Krystal, is that the base's anti-air defense system was not working properly. And it apparently failed, which is what the Pentagon is saying. And not only that, not only did it fail, it appears that the Iranian militias knew that it was failing and specifically choose that time to conduct an attack. So not only do we have our guys stationed in eastern Syria for a reason that nobody has ever voted for or made a case to the American public. By the way, we're not at war with Syria. And then also, we're not even protecting them properly. And now a U.S. contractor is dead and several service members are wounded. On top of that, more attacks were then conducted over the course of the next several days. Let's put this up there on the screen, where you can actually see a number of drone attacks and swarms happened all across of Syria, in eastern Syria specifically, against other U.S. bases, which actually raises the question, how many American service members are inside of Syria? This was a major topic of discussion during the Trump administration when Trump ordered a pullout from Syria. That's ultimately why Secretary Mattis quit the administration in the first place. And the case that he often was making there, as many skeptics, people like myself were also saying, was, listen, if you don't get out, then we're never going to leave. And it's been 5 years since that happened. And now we just had a service member or a contractor who was killed there, several services members who were wounded. And on top of that, now we are being drawn further into this conflict. Let's throw this up there. The Biden administration conducting retaliatory airstrikes in Syria in response to this attack, escalating tension with the Iranian regime as well over this, as if we don't have more problems going on elsewhere in the world. This is just, like a vintage story, I think, outside of the forever war.
Yeah, I think that is exactly correct, where it reminds you, number one, of all of these conflicts that we have service members engaged in that the American public has had no ability to debate, that there was never any congressional authorization for. Number two, that, this is all fine and good until you have some major conflict, as we have basically right now with, an a significant adversary and a significant power player in terms of the region. This leads us into sort of direct conflict with Iran, which can have all sorts of spiraling diplomatic consequences that can end in disaster. The reporting suggests that there's more than 900 actual service members in Syria remaining, and hundreds more contractors. We don't even know what number that is. So there continues to be potential for disaster here, as evidenced by this. This is also not the first time that President Biden has carried out strikes within Syria. There were strikes in February and June of 2021. There were strikes in August of 2022, and now this latest round. So I think it has all the elements of total lack of transparency, total lack of accountability, and a very potentially dangerous and fraught situation that the American people have really had no insight into or say over.
Yes, and I also think it's important for people to understand the US Congress never authorized any troops inside of Syria. All of this is being done under the auspices of Operation Inherent Resolve, which is the US backed mission to support Iraqi security forces against ISIS inside of Iraq. Obama and President Trump expanded our Inherent Resolve to a secret mission of, at one point, thousands of American service members inside of Syria. Syria, look, we do not recognize any government outside of Syria. If the Assad regime clearly remains in power throughout the country, this is a sovereign nation which U.S. forces are stationed on without the explicit permission and, in fact, the protests of the government who is in control in that region. We are basically doing so an occupation of at least, the limited bases and other territory that we have with no legitimacy from Congress or from the nation whose territory that we are operating on. This is, again, part of the problem with the congressional abdication of responsibility and the authorization of the use of military force that we saw in Afghanistan and in Iraq, where all of these missions, like in Niger and in Somalia and, who knows where else, Mali, many of these other places, are all done without any actual government approval. In many cases, members of Congress, even those on the Armed Services Committee and others, have no idea what these troops are doing there. And look, let's be honest. Does the Biden administration even know what's going on? Like, do they know what they're doing there? It really is just run outside of the Pentagon on complete autopilot. And then the world just wakes up, as we did in Niger, when somebody dies. So look, unfortunately, just like in that situation, most likely what will happen is the Pentagon will cover it up. They'll try and act tough. The Biden administration won't give any answers. And the troop presence will just continue. You covered that Niger attack there at the time. This seems very similar, where what the hell is going on here? We have people in far-flung places. Air defense doesn't even work properly. A man is dead. Like, you can't just you can't whitewash something like this, and yet they do it all the time.
Yeah, I think that's all well said. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.